Good afternoon, everyone. For those that don't know me, my name is Steve. I'm Managing Director at Figment Agency. We're a specialist SEO agency focusing on private healthcare sector. And in this presentation today, we're going to be talking about SEO, but also AI. So it's a two-in-one where you're going to get to learn a little bit about the landscape and how you can apply that to practice. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. So, as I said, this presentation is all about AI and SEO for the healthcare sector. A little bit about me and the agency. I've been working with SEO, search engine optimization, since the days of Ask Jeeves and Yahoo back in the late 90s. My first website was built then, and I pretty much had to explain why you needed a website and what the internet was all about. Many people had just dial-up connections. Remember those days? I went on to graduate from Brunel University with multimedia design and technology, and consulted for Apple Computers, where I met a lot of people who struggled to get to grips with how the internet was going to change their lives. In particular, I met with professionals and business owners that wanted to use the internet, but really just didn't understand where to start. So I set up Figment Agency 2006. And so we've been going 17 years. We're current winners of the UK Search Awards, and we have a really glowing reputation. Personally, I live at home in Kingston upon Thames with my wife, Emma, and our 4-year-old, well, near 4-year-old son, JJ, who's a big Lego fanatic. For those that are familiar with Figment, we're working primarily with private healthcare clients. Those include fertility, private practice, chiropractic, and physio, skin and complementary therapies. That this means that we've got a really good understanding about how we can apply our unique expertise and skills to drive really strong outcomes for our clients. So that's a little bit about me and Figment. So let's get into what's going on. I'm sure you're aware that the private healthcare sector is expected to continue to grow. And there's a number of factors that are driving that. One, the aging population. Two, the increased demand and choice and convenience. And three, the rising cost in NHS care. So why are people turning to that? Well, NHS waiting lists are increasing for certain treatments. People may want specific choices of care. And of course, they want more of a personalized care. They get traditionally a little bit longer with private care, and they get that attention that perhaps they don't get with the public sector care. And then they also get access to unique treatments and technology, and we know that that is widely available through private practice, but not always it is available through the NHS. We also are seeing a bit of a squeeze. Why is that the case? Well, we've got rising inflation, but we've got the cost of technology, medical technology, the cost of staff, the cost of training and keeping qualified staff. And that basically makes it more difficult for people to afford private healthcare because of the rising costs. What that means is that practices need to be smarter. Most practice managers and partners focus on patient outcomes, and that should continue to be the way. But the other things that come into running an organization, like well-being and staff rotas, holidays, as well as compliance and financial and insurance payments, basically mean that marketing is usually the bottom of your to-do list. So in this presentation, we're going to cover the basics and unearth how SEO works. And then we're going to look at how you can be using artificial intelligence to help accelerate your online growth. So to set the scene, AI, we've probably all played computer games, especially in the 90s, but AI and robotics is kind of taking over. And we're seeing a massive rise in the way that people are leveraging technology. And this is evident in the way that it's starting to be rolled out in some surgical areas. For example, in this image here, you can see a robot. It's a Siemens robotic system that basically has millimeter precision, and it can allow you to widen blood vessels and increase blood flow and place a stent. So this is absolutely already in action. And can you imagine what the future is going to be like using artificial intelligence to improve patient outcomes and to make things even better than they already are? So a lot of people are familiar with the term AI, artificial intelligence, but they're not necessarily familiar with what to do. And healthcare practitioners have a hell of a lot to do, as we already have spoken about. So this is a great chance to get up to speed with what the landscape looks like. So breaking it down, as we're all about making SEO simple, it's the practice of improving a website's visibility in the organic or the unpaid rankings. The search engine results pages, also known as the SERPs, are really where you need to be. And you need to be ideally in the top positions of those so you can connect with patients who are looking for what you do. And it's all very based around a search, which is typically on Google, and that drives organic traffic to your website. And that is, in a nutshell, what SEO is all about. And the SERP, or the search engine results page, typically looks a little bit like this. You have paid advertising at the top, and below that you have what we call the organic listings. Those are the free listings, where they are a little bit more trusted. Now, there are something like 500 variations of this page, but broadly speaking, it looks like this. And with the emergence of AI, we're likely to see changes in the way this looks as people bring in generative AI into search. But AI really, it's nothing new because Google has actually been using it to help index and to provide results to date. It's just that AI really is now something that the average Joe can get hold of. So that's what a SERP looks like. What's the business case for SEO? And why should you do SEO above some of the other different options out there? Well, one of the biggest cases is that the more educated and professional you are, the more likely you are going to ignore an ad. And actually, the stats show that 80% of people do that. Google's made it really Google has basically blended in the ads to make them seem more subtle. It's been called out on that before, but most people are aware of what an ad is, and they do tend to trust the organic listings more. If we combine all of the traffic from, say, social media, direct advertising, paid ads, paid social, email marketing, pretty much everything, we are looking at still more traffic just coming through the organic listings in Google than all of those sources combined. So it is the better option if you want the maximum exposure. And most people click on the top three. Very few people click on page two. So if you're not near the top of Google, the chances are someone will go to a different company or practice, and that makes it hard for you to connect with your patients because people could end up going elsewhere. How much traffic goes to the number one? Well, about a third. It does vary depending on whether it's a local search or what people are specifically looking for. But typically, if you're ranked in the number one position, you can get 1/3 of the traffic for that one phrase. So if a phrase has, say, 500 visits, you can be expecting a couple of hundred visits just from that one phrase per month. So it can easily add up and generate a lot of really good eyeballs on your website. Google hasn't changed its mission for a while. It's all about information. It wants to make it universal. Basically, it wants to make it helpful. It wants to make it accessible and useful. So when we talk about SEO, are we just talking about Google? Pretty much 92% share, at least in the UK. It's a bit less in the US. But in the UK here, it's very, very focused around Google. So what you should do is really basically think of your website as a way of aligning with Google's mission. And that makes Google very, very happy. And of course, it will make your partners and clients very happy as well. So to do that, you're going to have to make your website a little bit more than just what we do. So we'll talk about that in a second. SEO is one of those things, it's seen as a bit of a dark art. People don't fully understand it. I think it could be some form of rocket science. And the number of times I have conversations with people that have been frustrated by the lack of transparency, it's absolutely crazy. So I've broken it down. It's not massively changed over a very long time. You've basically got two really big areas here. You've got relevancy, which is all about things that we do on the website to marry together content that you have with what people are searching for. So that's what we call the user search intent. So if somebody is looking for how much does an IVF treatment cost, or how much would it cost to have a sports massage, those sorts of things can be handled in different types of content. But it could be that somebody wants to find out your pricing. So they might want to find out the pricing of the service. And that pricing could be done through what we call schema markup. So it's a way of putting code into the website that comes up in your FAQs when you go on the search engine results page. And other types of content are video, of course, which people would much rather watch a video than read lots and lots of content. And of course, blog articles, you may have come across them, and we'll talk about why they're important in just a second, but they're also an on-page factor that helps build up your authority. So when it comes to off-page SEO, they go hand in hand. So good on-page will bring in good off-page, because people will be attracted to the content that you create. And authority is all about basically links from other websites. They're a bit like votes. So it's almost like asking someone, do you know a pizza restaurant in Solihull? It might be that those restaurant recommendations bring in those customers. And with Google, it's the same. So the recommendations from other websites are basically what we call backlinks. The better those backlinks and the more of them, then the better trust that Google has with your website. And so that's what we call off-page SEO. It's not that easy to control, and that's where we come in to help support that with your outreach and your PR, and to ensure that you have those strong relationships with other website owners. So we just spoke about blog, and we're going to come on to that. But in 2018, the industry was a little bit shaken up with a new update. It was coined the Medic update, and the reason it was called the Medic update is because it massively affected healthcare websites. Google introduced a concept called EAT, to which it's just added an extra E on the end. Nothing to do with food, of course, but it stands for expertise, authority, and trust, with the new one added very recently of being experience. So experience being first-hand experience. So if you've been in a real-world situation with a patient, then you're going to be really equipped with basically being able to translate that to the real world. And Google really loves it when you're able to demonstrate that. So if you've got, say, a case study, if you're in a dentist and you can show the before and after, and you can talk about what that case was and how you managed to improve, that is a great way of demonstrating your real world experience. Expertise, if you have a real high level of knowledge in a subject matter, then you're able to convey that through your qualifications and your credentials and your education, but you can also do that through your articles. So when it comes to articles, you should be focusing on what the average user wants to read, not necessarily always aimed at other people in your sector. Yes, you can do a little bit of that, but ultimately, if you want to attract more people to your website that will be prospective patients, then you should make sure that your content is aimed at that. For example, the 7 reasons why you should choose Invisalign. So the final 2 areas are all about legitimacy and off-page SEO. So authority, as we spoke about, is about what other people are saying about you. So reviews and case studies, and they're all about links and mentions on social media, bringing in that authority piece into your website. Of course, trust is all about transparency, legitimacy, and accuracy. So you need to make sure that your website is really well put together from an authenticity point of view. You're including references in your content, and that you're including everything that people would see as being a credible source. So that's EAT. And if you don't have EAT in your website, then the chances are you're not likely to rank. This is kind of like the pillar to SEO success. So before you want to even think about getting online and Google and using AI for that, you want to be thinking about it in marketing terms. We know it's the back of your very long to-do list, but if we think about it in very simple terms, and it's basically going back to marketing 101, there's a customer journey lifestyle that happens for your patients, and people are generally making a considered purchase when they are going ahead with medical treatment. So there's a brand positioning where you have an awareness stage, and that could be, for example, in our case study here, what are the pros and cons of fat freezing? This is where SEO comes in, because it's allowing you to connect with people who are searching for people at the top of your marketing funnel. Then you come to a consideration phase, in this case, fat freezing treatment in London, where someone has done their research and they are well aware of the type of treatment that they are looking for, and they're looking for a particular provider. This is very broad, but it could be anything. It could be Harley Street, or it could be Surrey or Hertfordshire. Now, SEO works particularly well for these two areas and driving people into your funnel. The next stage is really about what happens when somebody comes to your practice. Why should they choose your practice above anyone else? And at this point, they're looking at the differences. So you should highlight the benefits, and you should demonstrate why you're great, which is you've done through customer testimonials. And that will really help you generate more interest and help people make a decision that they want to go with you. The next stage, of course, could be a booking over a consultation. It could be a phone call, could be an email, but they are going to make a conversion. And that's really when you convert somebody through that funnel into being a paying patient. And of course, decision at the end is when they're finally booking and paying for the treatment. So this is a basic customer journey lifestyle that your patients will go through. Some people are ready to make a decision based on referral right away, but most people will go through a consideration. What you should do really is think about what keywords and phrases that relate to what people are searching for. So we're thinking about whiteboard and really sort of brainstorming around those ideas. And this is a workshop that we do with clients to help them understand and better get to grips with how people buy from you. So now on to AI, of course. This is why you're here. And what's all the fuss? Well, I couldn't resist with our company name putting that in there, because it is no longer a figment of your imagination. So these, the portrayal of films that AI has had, Terminator, Skynet, that was all Hollywood's AI. But now we're not talking about futuristic robots, but it's actually part of our everyday life. Of course, the good news is you won't need to time travel or fight off any robots. But what's going on here means that AI is popping up in our everyday life. I'm a big traveler, and as part of my recent travels, I popped in these pictures. You've got a robot here on the left-hand side that can basically play live music. You've got a hotel check-in concierge in Tokyo, Japan, that can check you in and give you all your access to your room. And on the right-hand side, the famous Asimo. It's been around a few years now. Honda's invention, you can basically score a goal. So maybe England should be taking a few tips from that. But basically, it's all about machine learning. AI is machine learning, but it's also so machine learning works on an experience and repetition basis. It's a bit like what we do as humans. If we make a mistake, we learn from it, and then we make another mistake, and then we get better and better. So AI, it's given basically lots and lots of learning, and this is data that it's processing, it's identifying patterns, making predictions, and then improving the decision making. And that's what a machine learning is. And the key to it is that AI is just getting smarter and smarter. Or is it? If you give AI the wrong information, it could get weaker and weaker. And so this is why the debate of AI is kind of lingering. So on the 30th of November last year, about 9 months ago, we proudly won the UK Search Awards, but it wasn't the only thing that happened that day. Complete coincidence was when Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer, or ChatGPT, comes out. And basically what it is it's a chatbot language using what we call a large language model called OpenAI. And basically what that means is that anyone who previously hadn't used AI can use this chatbot to create like a human-like conversation. So all of a sudden you're able to get that feedback to questions. You're able to get written content, social posts, essays, code emails. And that's why suddenly school teachers were out saying, no, you can't do that. And I think Italy were banning it quite quickly because it was all becoming very, very fast paced. And all of a sudden, it was everywhere. So Google began testing, but we know it's been a little bit behind the curve. But unless you've got access to Google Labs waitlist, you're not going to get an awful lot back from what Google's been doing. But it's trying to implement this into its search engine even more than it has been in recent years. So the scene is very much with Microsoft, who've kind of embedded ChatGPT and OpenAI AI technology, with Google playing a little bit of catch up in this regard. As such, Bing has actually gained a little bit of share. So where are we? What is going to happen with AI in the future? Well, before we get into the use cases, we should say that AI is definitely going to change. This is an excellent book by a chap called Mo Gaddat, and basically he was the former chief business officer at Google X. He talks about the potential dangers of SEO. He says it's like a genie being let out of the bottle. There's no going back. And he brings up this concept of basically human intelligence being outsmarted. And he says this phenomenon is known as the singularity. It's a bit scary because it's the point at which the AI has the ability to reproduce itself autonomously. And at that point, basically could render humans being unnecessary and potentially obsolete. Flip side of that, of course, is that there are brilliant use cases for using AI. And of course, I remember in the 90s where people said, oh yeah, computers are going to replace everyone at work. But here we are on a sunny afternoon, Friday, but first week back. I think it's probably the last hot day of the year and we're still at our computers. So that didn't happen. So who's using AI practically right now, given the dangers and the benefits? Well, pretty much nearly half of all businesses are using AI to lower operational tasks in some way. So that's really interesting that people are already starting to adopt it. And if you haven't started to adopt AI in your business, it's worth thinking about what your strategy is going to be going forward. Not necessarily just now, but what it might look like in 3 or 5 years' time, and what are the threats to your business. Marketers in particular, there was a survey of 3,800 marketers, digital marketers, and most of those are using AI for content writing. And many people are using ChatGPT. So it's really interesting to see that marketers are fully embracing AI. Of course, business owners will be a little bit further back in the curve. So how can you use AI to accelerate your SEO? Your practice deserves to be seen by your prospective patients. What can you do to accelerate those results? Well, you can use it for your strategy. As we spoke about earlier, it's important to understand the journey in which people go through when they buy from you. And effectively, that's all based around research and understanding and applying your knowledge about how people search. So people will be pleased to know that it's extremely fast to get information straight from ChatGPT. And you probably already tried this. It doesn't require much brain power, and all of a sudden you can get information back. So, for example, I could say, what are the considerations somebody might be having when they are considering IVF treatment? And literally within minutes, well, seconds sometimes, you get back all of these answers. It's incredible. But that information may not be 100% accurate. It's coined that it's only up to date to 2021. So if it's a couple of years accurate, then it's not going to be enough accurate for a medical organization. And it probably won't reflect what you need. So you need to be really careful and go through everything with a tooth comb to make sure that you can use it. Use it as an assistant, but not necessarily use it as the be all and end all. And plugins extend functionality from a tool like ChatGPT, the OpenAI framework. And you can use things like now Google Trends to find out how people are behaving. So if you're noticing any trends, for example, it could be a hair loss treatment, or it could be a particular type of therapy for trauma. Those trends could be changing over time. So what we see, obviously, the increase in depression, anxiety over the COVID period of time. So you could be looking at those correlations to see how that's impacting the way that people behave and how that might affect your own practice. So here's a list of different plugins that we use to create and extract data and to improve the efficiency for our clients' SEO campaigns. And these are the sorts of tools that can make it really easy for you to get more information. You can obviously use it for written content. As we've seen, 85% of marketers are using ChatGPT and other AI types tools to create content, which is great. As we said, it's really fast and efficient, but it's also checked for spelling and grammar, something that Google is really hot on. Don't forget to include your prompts. You can't just expect it to write. And if you're going to do this, you need to make sure what your tone of voice is and what the do's and don'ts are, and to make sure that you're including prompts that ensure it uses UK English. But of course, you could go too far. If you tell it to use British English, it could end up using the Queen's English. And Google wants it to be as natural as possible. It uses something called natural language processing. And the easier you make it for somebody to read, the better. The problem, of course, is it's going to lack your real world experience. If you've seen hundreds or thousands of patients, maybe for back surgery or perhaps for chiropractic, whatever it is that you do, that can't really be replaced by any AI. It's also going to lack the creativity. So if somebody is problem solving, then they're not necessarily going to be able to work around that. It's also very repetitive. So we could have a situation in years to come where we're putting rubbish in and we're getting rubbish out, because effectively the AI is just regurgitating. And if the information ends up being wrong at any stage, then it will just multiply and multiply. And that's going to cannibalize and make it harder to find it accurate information. So you really want to be applying thought leadership rather than generic content. So the main message here is approach with caution. But one thing you definitely could be using is AI for your imagery to supplement your content. Even if you just use AI to help create an outline for your content and fast track the research and ideas around your blog, or perhaps help with your strategy, you could definitely be exploring the way that AI can be used to create imagery and to make it more interesting, as well as using videos to supplement those blogs and make them more engaging. So the beauty about using AI for that is it's fast to produce and it can create you unique images pretty much on the fly. We're going to see an example of that in a minute. It's also really cheap. The cost of hiring a photographer or sifting through stock photo libraries is quite time consuming and expensive. The problem is it doesn't always look 100% realistic, and it's going to struggle with hands. The two tools that you should be checking out are Midjourney and DALL-E. Here's some examples. The prompts was all about IKEA. We know that it has the blue and yellow branding. And in this example, we've asked it for a very messy kitchen and bedroom. And there you have it. Within seconds, you've got a brand new image that could be used for IKEA's magazine. Flip side of that is the image on the right-hand side looks a little bit scary. Could be from a horror film because that hand isn't quite right for me. So all this is well and good, but does it actually check out with Google? Well, good news is yes. Appropriate use of AI is not against our guidelines. And Google has actually said, it's been using AI for years. It's also using AI with its paid search. So if you're running a paid campaign, it uses something called Performance Max, and that's all machine learning based. And that's the future of paid search. It doesn't ban AI content. It says it helps assist, and it helps you generate new content in new and exciting ways. The main thing is that Google's saying you shouldn't use AI always. It's just saying it can help assist. There's a search advocate called John Muller, nothing to do with yogurts, but this guy comes out. He's a bit like a representative, and he basically speaks out on different subjects to do with Google. And the question is, if you're a lawyer and you were presenting a case, you wouldn't rely on ChatGPT. And he gives a great argument to say that you wouldn't be using that before a judge. So you've got to be really careful if you're going to be creating content around it. It's going to reflect the image of your practice and your organization, and so you want to be making sure that it is fully accurate. So how can you maximize your investment with SEO? Well, it can be used, as we've seen, as a bit of a research assistant, so you can get more out with less time input. And that's exactly what we do. We have our own healthcare writing, but we use it to help accelerate that process. You can also use it to respin existing content. So if you've already got a nice website with lots of content on there, you can be using it to create video for existing blogs. And you can be using it to create images to make those evergreen articles more interesting and engaging. You could also use it for your social media. So if you produce content around your subject matter, you can help it create posts that you could be using to post on social media. And for those that want to know, social media doesn't massively impact your SEO. It is helpful to have brand mentions, but really social is about brand awareness and that very, very early stage. For those that really want to do business with you, those are going to be necessary. There's more likely going to become from people typing into Google on the search engine. And at Figment, we're using AI to help drive faster, stronger, better results for clients, using the time that we would have spent on more labor-intensive things to get more done faster and cheaper. So what is the final world? So AI is, oh, before we do, yeah, was this webinar made using AI? Big question on your lips. I'm sadly not. It was all about time and effort, but we did use AI to pull some stats to get some outline and to help inform our research. But of course, we put it together ourselves. There is a tool out there that you can use to put together your own slide decks using AI. I Googled it, came across it, and then just decided to stick what I already knew. So that hopefully answers that question. On to basically the final word. Basically, healthcare clients are facing those constant challenges at the moment. But main thing is that marketing is the back of your list. If you've got inbound SEO to complement those existing patient referrals, which most people overly rely on, you can get a steady flow of new patients that can help you grow. And if you're going to create a nice SEO strategy, you can be using AI today to help accelerate those results and get more for your money. It's all based around strong knowledge of your subject matter. So if you've got unique knowledge, then we can tap into that to help you connect with the patients and get better ranked on Google. If you are going to use it for content, just be really careful that it's reflecting your own brand, the tone of voice, the accuracy of the information. Remember, your articles don't need to be medical articles for medics. Yes, you can have a few of those on your website if you want to be seen as a leader and you are networking with other potential partners. But if you are looking to attract patients, they need to be really friendly for your consumer. You can definitely use AI to help fast track these things. Just be very, very careful. The overarching thought is AI a problem looking for a solution? Don't just don't integrate it in your business unless there is a problem there. And the key thing to ask yourself is, how are you going to be using AI in your business in years to come?